Okay, let's dive into this. There was this significant event in Bangladesh just this past Saturday, May 3rd. Thousands of people rallying. And it's right at this interesting intersection, isn't it? Religious law and women's rights. Kind of makes you pause and think.
It absolutely does. And the scale, well, the AP News report we're looking at puts it at over 20,000 people. That's a lot of people. Organized by the Islamist group Hafazat Islam near Dhaka University.
20,000. Wow. Yeah, that's certainly a statement. And AP mentioned banners, placards, things like say no to Western laws on our women, rise up Bangladesh. Pretty clear messaging there.
Very direct. And it doesn't sound like a one-off thing either. Apparently they've threatened, more rallies across the whole country on May 23rd if their demands aren't met.
May 23rd. So there's a deadline involved. It suggests real intent. What exactly are they protesting? What are these proposed changes?
Well, the core of it, according to the report, revolves around proposed reforms. These reforms are aimed at ensuring equal rights, particularly for Muslim women, and specifically mentioning property rights.
Property rights.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about equality legislation, essentially. And Hafazat Islam's position is?
Their main objection, as reported, is that they see these reforms as contradicting sharia law, sharia being the Islamic legal and moral framework. So there's this perceived clash between proposed secular law and religious law.
Right, a fundamental disagreement on compatibility there. And it seems they're not just voicing disagreement. AP mentions specific demands.
Yes, quite specific. A leader, Maminul Haq, is quoted demanding the government abolish its reforms commission entirely and even punish its members. That's pretty strong language.
Punish them. Wow. Why such a strong reaction to the commission itself?
Well, the reasoning given in the report is that Haq feels the commission deeply offended the majority's religious sentiments, specifically by pointing to religious inheritance laws as like a primary source of inequality between men and women.
Ah, okay. So they see the commission's findings or statements as an attack on religious principles themselves.
Precisely. It frames the issue as an insult to their deeply held beliefs about inheritance and gender roles within their interpretation of Sharia.
Got it. But there's more to it, isn't there? The AP report mentioned politics, too. Something about the Awami League Party.
Yes, exactly. That adds another whole layer. The group's leaders are also demanding that the current interim government ban the Awami League. That's the party of the former prime minister, Sheikh Hasina.
Okay, banning a major political party. How does that connect to the women's rights issue? Or is it separate?
It seems intertwined with the current political climate. You have to remember, Sheikh Hasina was ousted back in August, right? She's now in exile. And this group, Hafazati Islam, accuses her government of, well, serious violence during the uprising that removed her.
Ah, so there's this backdrop of recent political upheaval and accusations against the former government. Hasina ruled for 15 years, so her ousting was a major shift.
A huge shift. And the AP report notes something important here. Since she was removed, Islamist groups like Hafazat Islam have reportedly become, let's say, more visible. And there are also reports mentioned about minority groups feeling intimidated in this new environment.
So the political context is really key. It's not happening in a vacuum. You mentioned the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate. What's their role supposed to be?
Well, typically an interim government steps in during a transition, like after Hasina's ouster, to basically manage things until new elections can be held. So they're navigating this really complex period and now facing these demands from Hafazat Islam.
Okay, so let's try and sort of summarize the main points from the AP report. First, there's this clear tension, this clash over proposed women's rights reforms and this group's interpretation of Sharia law.
Definitely. That's the central conflict highlighted. The rally is the visible sign of that resistance. And it's important we remember it's their interpretation being presented here.
Right. Second, it's not purely religious or legal. There's a strong political dimension. Demands targeting the current government, demands about banning the former ruling party.
Absolutely. The political grievances, especially concerning the previous government and the circumstances of its removal, are clearly woven into their current demands.
And third, this is all unfolding, as you said, against this backdrop of major political change in Bangladesh, which seems to be affecting the visibility and maybe the boldness of groups like Hafazati Islam and creating concerns for minorities.
That context is crucial, yeah. It helps explain perhaps the timing and the intensity of this protest. You can't really understand the event without seeing that bigger picture.
So putting it all together, the AP report shows us a push for what some see as progress on women's legal rights, meeting this very strong, religiously framed resistance, all happening in a moment of political flux. It's complex.
Very complex. And just to reiterate, our goal here is just to explore what the AP report laid out. We're aiming to understand the different angles presented in the source, not endorse any particular viewpoint within it.
Absolutely. That's crucial for us. So it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How does societies really anywhere manage these situations? When you have evolving ideas about equality, bumping up against very established religious traditions or legal codes, what does fairness even look like when people are coming from such different starting points?
No.
Well, it's a question this situation in Bangladesh really throws into sharp relief.